Alright, so here's the messed up mold I made on my car, and it had to get filled in because there was a lot of voids. They looked like that. There was a lot of air pockets. We're not using that part of the mold. We'll be using everything from here over, so we didn't bother filling in there. But Jay did a nice job making it smooth for me. There's a couple little pinholes and stuff, but that'll show up on the carbon, on the resin. I'm going to paint the carbon fiber part when I'm done, so any little high spots like this we can sand down. You can either fill it now and sand it, or when you put the resin in and it takes up those voids, it'll show up in the carbon and you could just sand it later. For me, when it's small stuff like this, I think it's easier just to sand it later rather than to fill it and sand it now when there's small things. But yeah, so tonight I am going to attempt to make my first carbon fiber piece from a female mold, and this was my first female mold as well, so we'll see how it works out, and I'll walk everybody through the process. And this is for the half doors that are going on the NSX trailer. Alright, so I taped off everything, and then what I did is I used just a cheap dollar can of hairspray. This stuff right here. Packaging tape is a great mold release, and hairspray is actually a great mold release, because what it does is, I know it sounds counterintuitive, hairspray sticks, but once it dries, it makes this film that nothing wants to stick to. So I did a very kind of nice wet coat of hairspray on this thing, and it's still drying, and I'm going to wait for that to dry, and then I'm going to wax. Now, all the stuff I've watched on this, nobody ever uses mold release first. They always use wax first, and then mold release. But then I spoke to a guy that actually does this for a living, and he told me that he always uses mold release, then wax, and then more mold release. So I'm going to try it the way that he suggested, and we'll see how it comes apart. Hopefully not taking big chunks of primer with it when I pull it away. So now the hairspray is dry. The next thing I'm going to do is do 3 really thick coats of wax. I am not going to wipe them off. I'm going to put a coat on at a time, very thick, let it dry, do another coat, and so on and so on. Then at the very end, I will spray some mold release on top. Alright, so I did my 3 coats of wax, sprayed some mold release after all the coats were dry, and now I'm just waiting for the mold release to dry. While I was waiting for that, I pre-cut my carbon to shape. I've only done 3 layers, so I'm only going to do 3-ply for now. I may, while it's drying, cut another piece or 2 and decide to do 5-ply. I could always add it to the inside at the end to strengthen everything. So that'll be going on here next. Okay, first layer is done. Now I'm going to mix up some more resin while the layer underneath there is still tacky. And then I will, as soon as that starts to tack up, put on my 2nd ply of carbon. Just finished my 4th ply and final ply. I always keep my scraps if they're big enough pieces for usable for some other kind of project, so I usually just have a couple bags full of scrap. So I decided to make my 4th ply just out of small pieces, since you won't see it since it's on the inside anyway. Here is some remnants I have left over from stuff. And here's the 4th ply. It's still wet, but I'm actually going to start popping this thing off because I am an impatient person. So I have a seam separator here, some wedge thing, and I'm going to try to find some more plastic wedges so I don't scrape up the resin on the front side the best I can. But I'm going to attempt to start popping this off. Okay, so it looks like it tore off a little bit of the, I'm gonna have to wait for it to dry so I can give it a close-up thing, but it looks like it took some of the primer with it, just like it took some of the paint off my car. So I don't know why that is. It stuck to the primer better than the primer stuck to the resin on the fiberglass. But all in all, it could be sanded, smoothed, and painted. From now on, I'm gonna use tape everywhere because the tape looks really nice and just leaves little tape lines that can be buffed out. But I'm happy with it. It's the shape of an NSX door. It needs to be cut to size and painted. A little bit of sanding, and that's it. So exactly what I'd hoped for. I just wish that I could understand the mold release better, because I don't understand how the primer would not stick to the resin on the fiberglass, but it always sticks to whatever resin I put on last. It doesn't make any sense to me. Whatever, it is what it is. Alright guys, so here's the NSX half door that I made out of carbon, as you guys just saw. And you can see how much it did not run a release from the mold, and it just took a lot of primer off with it, and even filler in some cases. Now, at least they're all high spots now, so I could sand them down and clear it or paint it or whatever. Chances are I'm going to paint it. But I don't know why my mold release game sucks so bad. The only place where it released from the mold was where I had packaging tape. And since I really don't want to destroy the other side of this car like I did to this driver's side door, now I have to do it to the passenger side again. I'm thinking I'm just going to wrap the whole door in packaging tape and hope that works and hope there's minimal damage. The issues must be with whatever chemicals I'm using for mold release. So if you guys have any suggestions, please comment below on what it is. And as always, thanks for watching. Stay tuned. I appreciate the support. I'll see you in the next one, guys.